everyone, happy weekend. This is Alex Gosse. I'm the social media team lead for Craft Resin and the owner of Magically Resin. I have been playing with these new rainbow dichroic inlays that I make, and I am having so much fun just embedding these in different craft resin projects. And I'm going to show you how to make this super cute keychain today. I start off with my craft resin being very warm. I like it 95 degrees before I mix part A and part B together. And then I measure part A and part B 1-to-1, measured by volume, equal parts. And I like to give it a good mix and then give it about 10 minutes to sit and degas. So this is the after it's degassed and I've waited that time. And I added in a little bit of glitter. I'll put all of the information about the things that I use in the description below. I really like adding a little bit of glitter to any of these projects, not so much that it will overtake the project, but enough that it adds a little sparkle, because who doesn't like a little extra sparkle? And I'd already had the base poured for this. I like to pour a bunch of different bases that I call blanks, pouring them in different colors and different ideas, and I actually remove them from the mold and then just keep them ready. And then whenever I'm ready to make something inside of the mold, I put the blank back in the mold and squish it down to make sure the silicone has made good contact all around. And I put a little alcohol spray in the mold before I do that, so that I'm sure that it makes really good contact, and when the alcohol dries, it makes a good seal. I really particularly like using craft resin for this type of project for a lot of different reasons. First of all, the low viscosity makes it really easy to pour without any bubbles. I really never have to think about or worry about bubbles. If I start off with my craft resin warm enough before I mix A and B, and then I let it get up to like 110 before I pour it, I never have any bubbles at all. I know some people do spray molds like this with a little bit of alcohol before they pour in them, but I've never found a need to do that. But it's a good tip if you're, using something else, or if your resin is a little bit colder. Really though, if your resin's warm enough, I just find that I never have trouble with bubbles. So I also really like it for this type of project because my inlays are fairly rigid, and I want to make sure that I don't get any air bubbles trapped between the inlay and the bottom piece. And I also have a ton of texture in my inlays, and I want to make sure that I don't get air bubbles trapped in the texture. So I find craft resin to be just the most ideal to use in combination with my inlays because of all of these other factors. Something else that I do almost every time that I pour is I fill up the mold. Whatever it is that I'm pouring, I will always pour blanks, and often I'll play with one or two of the other molds depending on how intricate whatever I was doing in the first place is and how hot the resin is, because obviously I don't want it to cure in the cup, and sometimes I can get distracted and leave it in the cup longer than it should. But I also avoid this by splitting the resin into multiple cups before I start my pour if I'm doing a lot of different types of projects. So this secondary piece that I'm pouring was just something fun that I thought I would leave in here, because why not? Basically, I was testing out a new product that I make. I make the gold alcohol ink, but you could use pinata alcohol ink. And the white product was something that I was making myself and testing out. So I thought I would leave it in because I thought y'all might find it interesting. And if not, you can fast forward through any of the parts related to that secondary. It's actually going to be a keychain that I'm going to put somebody's name on that I think will be really cute. So you want to make sure after a little bit with your inlays and check to make sure that it hasn't floated up too much, because they are pretty light, and even if you've gotten all the air bubbles out from underneath, there is a chance that it may float up on one side or another. So it's just a good idea to make sure that your coverage is full on top of your inlay. Or if you're embedding anything like paper, you can embed a ton of things in resin, but you always want to make sure while the resin is still nice and pliable that whatever you're embedding is all the way in. If you'd like more tutorials about things that can be embedded in craft resin, please let us know in the comments, or if you have any additional questions about any of the products that were used, or how I did any of the particular things, if you'd like me to fill out more information for you, I'd be happy to. Also, feel free to reach out to Craft Resin on Instagram or to reach out to me on Magically Resin. And we love seeing what y'all are working on and how you're using craft resin, and we just love our artists so much. You'll notice that there are some imperfections in the top. Well, I made the cardinal mistake of not covering up my resin after I poured it. So this has nothing to do with craft resin and everything to do with fail artist. So I poured this super cute piece, but then I didn't cover it up, and I have cats and dogs, and oh my. So it got cat hair in it, and I tried to fix it by firing it and made a mess of it, which is fine because I dome most of these pieces anyway. So I tend to be kind of cavalier with when I'm just pouring something for fun to film something. But I did really make a mess at the top of this, and that was totally my own fault. And a good lesson: be sure and cover your work, because you don't want the stuff to get in it, and you definitely don't want little paws or anything, which of course didn't happen here. I just got pet hair in it. But if you see their imperfections, that's why. So I decided to add a letter to it because I was so tickled with how this turned out that I wanted to make this a keychain for myself.